Hello everybody and welcome to our third day on our cruise on the Carnival Valor. In this episode, we had finished crossing the Gulf. We finished our first day at sea on the cruise ship and we were heading into Mexico. That's right, Yucatan Peninsula, here we come. We're here, we're ready to step foot on land at Costa Maya. Well folks, Candace wanted to spend the morning enjoying the sunshine and just sitting up on the adults deck. You know, the Serenity deck that no kids are allowed. It was beautiful pulling into Costa Maya, but I wasn't in the mood sitting, so I was kind of getting rambunctious, and I just started walking around.
I was so excited. We were pulling into port, and I saw the temple popping out of the jungle. It was beautiful. And guess what we were doing today? We were about to hike the Mayan ruins. So we weren't getting off the boat until 1 o'clock, so we decided to relax a little bit. So we decided to head back to our room. And we get back to the room and we see this cute little animal. Isn't he adorable? And on this day, they were folding animals all over the ship. They're so cute.
You know, folks, we live, as you know, on an island in northern Lake Michigan, which is kind of called the Caribbean of the North due to its deep blue and aqua to teal colors, especially around the Beaver Island archipelago. But I tell you, I don't think I've ever seen a blue, or at least one that I remember, that was as beautiful and deep of a blue as we saw getting off the port here. And there was some good wave action. I mean, these babies were about 6, probably 7 footers, but it was just such a beautiful blue, I couldn't believe it.
Look how refreshing that water looks. You could just dive right in. Walking on the pier up to the town, it was so beautiful. The grass huts, it just felt like we were in a totally different world. It was so beautiful.
So it was about an hour drive with a great tour guide, by the way, but an hour drive out into the jungle from the port to go see this set of Mayan ruins.
And the first thing we saw were spider monkeys. They were so adorable. Hi, baby. I'll go.
There's a baby
Missed it.
one there. Hi, baby. I'll go.
And this is the first ruin we got to see, and it was amazing. We couldn't hike this one, but we could do some photos near it. It was beautiful.
Well, one of the things, I mean, we could hike around it if we had time. What you're not allowed to do is climb on it, which a couple people, of course, went and did. There is, now you'll see in the next one, we're able to climb on some of the ruins, but the tour guide was really good at letting us know which ones we can get on, how far we can go up, and which ones we can't. Because the last thing you want to do is be that one
disrespectful person.
You just don't want to be that jackass. That's how I'm going to put it.
So when we were hiking around the ruins, it was incredible because it's so flat there. So they had to bring in all of those stones and build it up that high. There's no mountains or anything there. It's flat plains.
Yeah, that's one thing the tour guide told us is the Yucatan Peninsula is almost completely flat. So one of the ways, there's over 2,000 Mayan kind of towns and cities, ancient ones that are around the Yucatan Peninsula, and one of the ways that archaeologists and other people were able to find them was by knowing the geography of the Yucatan Peninsula, knowing it's absolutely flat. And so if there was any kind of mounds or any kind of buildup whatsoever, it had to have been human-made.
So now we have hiked around and we are at the Mayan ruins that we can actually climb. And it was 32 steps up. and when you got to the top, it was absolutely gorgeous. It was breathtaking. So we're 32 steps up from the Yucatan, and all this ground that people are walking on had to be brought in and placed there to give it the elevation that it had. This is another one we could not climb, but we could get pictures on. So I did, of course. On the bottom platform, I could take some pictures, but not higher than that.
So what's interesting is if you stand on the bottom of these temples, at the bottom of these pyramids, you'll see that there's some openings on the top, on all of them. Now, every temple will be a little bit different, but one temple will mark the summer solstice, one temple will mark the winter solstice, and another a different astronomical date that's usually recognized, of course, by previous cultures. But that's one of the ways that they would mark their calendar is if you look at the opening, if the sun, it was always a celebration day when the sun would set, basically, or rise right in the middle of one of these openings if you're looking straight from the stairs. And it wasn't like in the movies where every day they were doing Mayan sacrifices or whatnot, but on these few festivals, on these few solar days of the year, where the sun would be directly in line with the top of these temples or pyramids, that's when the big celebrations and potential sacrifices would take place. Oh, and one more piece of information. Right now, there are only 5 known dialects of invention of writing. Everything else has been an evolution on those, but there are 5 known different inventions of writing. Not pictographs, but actual writing. And the Mayans are one of those 5 that invented it. And here, folks, is an example. It's mostly worn off, so they've had a hard time with it, but when people think about ancient writings, they think about Egyptian, Phoenician, Babylonian, those kind of things. Here is writing, not pictographs, actual writing, inventive writing that was before ancient Egypt.
As we were walking through the jungle, it was just beautiful. It was breathtaking. I could have spent all day there just walking around and exploring and looking for monkeys. Oh, if we would have been there a day before, we would have been able to see a python.
Those are leaf cutter ants. Usually what they do is that they go on those tracks around the jungle. They find one of the trees that they usually cut the leaves from, right? And what they do, they don't eat the leaves. They cut the leaves, they bring the pieces of the leaf back to their nest, right? And they grow a fungi on the leaf, and the fungi is what they eat. So they're kinda like farming, okay? So those are leaf cutter ants. It's not the same as the red.
So these are the platforms where people lived. They would make their houses out of wood. That's why they're no longer there. But they would make the base out of limestone. And they would bury their dead underneath the ground next to their houses.
2 religious areas, right? We went on the first one that was Temple 24. And then we went to Temple 1 and 2, Temple of the Sun and the Great Plateau. So 2 religious areas, but where did these guys live? This is the answer to that question. Where we are right now is a residential area.
These trees were so cool. They were so big. And look at those roots. It's because they're trying to get sunlight and water at the same time. So they spread out on the surface.
People of the city used to live. Remember that downtown, only important people, common people, outskirts, right? So all of these platforms that you see is a stone foundation on top of which they used to build their houses, okay? On top of this platform, there was a wood house, okay? A hut, let's say, with wood walls and thatched palm tree roofs covering it, okay? Of course, perishable materials that were destroyed over the time. So the only thing that survives is the stone platform on top of which the important families used to live. All of this central area was something like a marketplace, okay? Place where the important people would also, like other people from other cities would come as merchants, would come to exchange goods with the people from this area, okay? Like a market. And they used to, some of the things that they used to import was obsidian, for example, obsidian, you know obsidian, right? Volcanic stone, right? That one they used to bring it all the way from Mexico City okay, that there's volcanoes on that area, or from the area of Guatemala or Honduras. Also, they used to import to this area jade. You know jade, right? Jade also comes from the area of Guatemala, Honduras, okay? And they also used to import to this area. We have seen, not in this city, but in other cities nearby, we have seen even turquoise. Turquoise is a mountainous precious stone, okay? Because of the level of purity that it has, we know that turquoise comes from the area that is.
Well, I don't know why I had him cut off there. It was actually pretty important to finish that sentence. But anyway, the turquoise from its purity comes from the area of New Mexico, Arizona. So it comes from some of the more North American, Native American tribes in what we now consider the southwest of the US of A.
So we didn't know if we got the first monkey when we were first coming in, so we were really trying to get a picture of this spider monkey for our younger son. He loves monkeys. I don't think this monkey liked Nicholas. I think it was trying to throw things at him the whole time.
He was. I got under him, and he'd look at me, and he'd take a piece of fruit off the tree, and then he'd kind of eat it, and then look at me, and then throw the piece of fruit down at me. Either he didn't like me, or he was playing some kind of a fun game up there. So here we get to one of the larger temples, or pyramids. And this one's dedicated to the Mayan sun god Kanish Ajao, which is specifically the name from the Yucatec dialect as the Mayan sun god. Now, the sun god in the Mayan culture is associated more with the aquatic eastern paradise, or here in the Yucatan Peninsula, where he can assume the shape of basically a water bird, or he can be shown as a young man paddling in a canoe. The stories behind the sun god are mostly concerned with his childhood and the conflicts leading up to his actual solar transformation. Now, although the specific imagery is used for a path of the sun, for example, the sun being carried through the underworld on the shoulders of its lord, there are hardly any histories really concerning the maturity of the sun deity. And according to the Mayans, Kanish Ajau, who was the elder brother of the upper god, will in the future put an end to this world by descending from the sky and have his jaguars devour mankind.
And here comes the mama and a baby monkey. It was so adorable. I was getting a little sad. We were heading out of the jungle, and I did not want to leave. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, like I said, that was the only problem is that the shore excursion or even our time, in port just wasn't that long. And so it really felt like it was done before you got to take the time to really enjoy it. I guess that's my only complaint is just the amount of time that you got to enjoy this rich cultural history. And as you can see, there was a couple people who had a really good time in the port town. But after a fast walk back off the bus, we did get back to our ship on time. We weren't a pier runner, and it was really windy. You could tell the storms were kind of coming in.
Alrighty, Nicholas and I made it back for dinner, and we had a wonderful dinner. But then we decided to hit the hay early because we had an early morning in Cozumel. It was going to be so exciting. You're just going to have to see it on the next video. See you guys then.